something and research. So probably get some stuff pulled up. But I don't know. We weren't here last week, so I don't know. You're getting a podcast this week. Congratulations. I bet everyone's very happy about that. And we even have Chris and Ray, which I believe are our two best. Anyone but
Yeah.
Jim.
As long as we have at least one English accent, then there's instant validity, to the podcast. Otherwise, it's speculative at best.
And a beard. We got to have a beard too.
Now you have a balanced attack.
Yeah, no. I don't really bring much. I don't bring an accent or a beard.
You bring that giant head.
Thank God for wide-angle camera lenses.
All right, I'll be doing the podcast alone today, so
Oh, we live?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, pal.
Oh, that's rude.
Good morning. Is there pool stuff happening?
There will be at some point in time, right? Spanish Open. What is that? That's starting like a couple weeks or something like that.
Tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah, same thing.
Wasn't
that
there
Spanish Open? I'm telling you what, like the Matchroom 9-ball tour. The first year it kind of, I wouldn't say it flopped, but there was a lot of really weird things that were happening with some of the events.
Mhm.
Prize money that wasn't necessarily big enough to make any sort of difference, prize money that wasn't prize money. And this year, I mean, they have added some stupid events. I mean, there are huge events that are being added that are outside of Matchroom. Stupid good.
Yeah, it's big ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, stupid good, we'll say.
Stupid good, stupid good.
Yeah. Chris, why didn't you go to this one?
It's my son's birthday this week, so be doing that instead of playing, which is good.
Why didn't you just take him with you? Nice trip to Spain for his birthday.
His attention span is less than mine, which is saying something. So I don't think I could keep him indoors for 4 days.
Oh, well, give him an iPad. Kids like iPads.
Yeah.
Ray, I'm assuming you just didn't want to go cross seas?
I would love to go. I think next year I'm probably going to start targeting some international events just to get that experience under my belt. This year, I think I plan to put all my vacation time towards the US ranking events. I just got back from California Hard Times. So I'm going to go to the one in Des Moines, Iowa next month. And then after that, it's kind of crunch time. It goes to the Turning Stone, and then there's a tournament in New York that kind of came on last minute. It kind of bumped the Florida event off the calendar for whatever reason. It's kind of unfortunate because I was going to go to that one. It would have been a bigger prize fund as well, but scheduling and all that kind of stuff. And then there's Jason's in the US Open. So I'm going to go probably to those events. I'm on the wait list for the Turning Stone. But yeah. So.
Yeah, why don't you talk about the Oscars event since you were there? Looked like a pretty awesome event. Why don't you talk about it? What'd you think?
Oscars events was great. Hard Times is probably one of the few pool rooms in the country that could legitimately have a 150 player tournament, and you don't feel the pressure of that schedule wise because they have 33 tables set up throughout the pool room. So, that puts them in a position where they don't need to cap fields really. And I thought Desiree did a great job in running the boards and getting things kind of like, honestly, I've been in smaller fields that are weekend tournaments here in Florida or in other places where it's a burden. You know what I mean? It feels like a real slog and it's just like a pain to kind of go through. It's not fun. And that event, because it was single elimination in the final rounds, it was never like you weren't really there late. You know what I mean? Unless you wanted to be, for action and stuff. The pool room is super great. Ernesto had done a really jam-up job on all the tables. They all played wonderful. He had the same cushions, I think, on the gold crowns as he had on the diamonds. So a lot of consistency play, table to table. You didn't have any like weird, this table plays kind of goofy. This table, like they all played really great. And some high quality pools going on too. A lot of top American players there, which is nice. You got to see some some quality sets and quality and quality matches, both one pocket and 9-ball. So, I mean, jam up job for them. They really did a good job in running it. It went off without a hitch, and I think we saw Shane Wolford snap off his first 9-ball tour ranking event. The kid's really been doubling down, I think, since last year. kind of
Crushed.
probably was let off of the event, off the Mosconi Cup team. He probably you wouldn't have been mad at anybody for picking him to be on the team, but I think Jeremy had said it well when he said like everybody that didn't make the team, they had a chance to cement themselves and make it really hard not to pick them. And maybe he wasn't just quite there, even though you felt like he was trending in that direction. And now he's kind of like really kind of starting to separate himself from, let's say, the pack of like people who could be selected on the American side. And he's been running pretty hot. He had a final 16 finish in the UK Open, and then went to Sacramento and snapped that off. So, good for him. He's racking up the points. So,
yeah, I mean, it's pretty awesome to see the US. I mean, I got to just say this. I thought it was really, really, really funny. Somebody made some post. I think it was Pool It's Not As Dead. Is like, yeah, take that, Europe, an All-American final of the 9-ball ranking event. And I went through and looked at the field.
One in a year.
There was like five non-Americans in the entire field.
Yeah.
And I think that there was like one world-class quality like player, and it was Gerson. Other than that, I mean, there was no Europeans, there was no like Chinese or Asian or anything like that. It's just
but for the Americans, you really kind of want that. If you want like who's playing compared to the other Americans, you know what I mean? Like you want to be able to see where everybody's at. So without kind of having to filter in the Asians or the Europeans or any of that stuff, you just want to. It's good that we have more ranking events. We should have probably 4 or 5 more on the calendar in the U.S. that are legitimate ranking events that are the majority American events. I know the Bob Stock Memorial, Federer was there, but there wasn't a big like European representation there. You saw a lot of Americans run deep in that event too, and you had an All-American final in that event also. So it's like that's kind of the benefit of having more ranking events here, and at the same time there's big ranking events happening in Europe. The UK Open had just happened. That's a big deal. Spanish Open is happening. We need more events in the US that are $200,000 prize funds though. So it's not just like you're winning $5,000 and that's your kind of like pump up for points. It does matter. Like it is, they're good, they're valuable now, but every event should be like a huge swing, you know what I mean, to really make it worth it. And guys are spending money to get out there, so it's not just like, well, I got 5th or whatever and broke even. You want these guys to make a little money as well and validate the time, so it's not just like they're sucking it up.
And I guess that's why we assume that there are no Europeans at Oscars. I mean, not that there was an insignificant amount of money, but it's not like they're chasing, especially if they come from Europe, they'd have to basically take first, second, or third to make any money.
Right.
What was top prize?
Top prize, I think, was 5. Was it 5?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, 5,000. Yeah. Same as the Bucharest. The Bucharest was €5,000, right?
Yeah, so it's about 5,800 ish.
So comparable, kind of like that. But still, it was a low entry fee tournament, right? It was like $100 to get in.
Oh, wow.
And it was 145 players, so that helps to kind of pump the prize pool. That's awesome.
We have a special guest,
and so that's kind of cool. At least on that end, that kind of helps the players out. But it'd be nice to have bigger, prize funds and stuff, because we have the US Open, and then we have the International. But
the International doesn't even count towards anything at this point.
Is it going to be standard, like going forward? Like it just won't count towards points. It just counts to the world ranking.
I don't know. I don't think it does.
That's stupid.
I mean, well, and that's why I said earlier. I said at a previous podcast that there's just no way that the Mosconi or the International Open won't end up moving dates at some point in time to get earlier in the calendar to count towards that Mosconi Cup.
Outside of the US Open, it's the biggest tournament in the country.
Yeah. I mean, you could make an outside argument for Derby City 9-ball, maybe.
Strictly 9-ball, but strictly 9-ball, it's the biggest event.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly the most 9-ball ranking event styled event because at the end of the day, like the 9-ball at Derby City Classic, while it's a massive event and there's 500-600 players every single year, it's the format of it's so kind of goofy-ish that you don't really consider it any sort of Matchroom. And in fact, it did count. It does count still, right? Even though it
does
maintains
count,
that
but
format. Yeah,
it counts. As Pinoza would say, it's not a major.
I agree with that.
But at least last year's international should count for points this year. I know they didn't for whatever reason like this year, but it's just too important to have it not be a significant contributor and deciding factor for Mosconi points, especially for the U.S. And anybody who's captain is going to de facto wait to the end of the international anyways to see how anybody makes. If somebody makes a big run at the international, it's gonna be weighted heavily in the selection process for a captain for a wild card. It has always been that way. Justin Bergman snuck onto the team the last time he played because of his run at the international. It's just last year they were waiting to see how Earl played, to see if it was worth giving him that spot. That's just always going to be that way. And the captain's going to stall to get a selection point done. So they should make sure that that's being involved. And because it also I paid my entry fee for that tournament early in advance, like way ahead of time. What's the incentive for me to sign up for that event if it's not going to count for points outside of just wanting to go to a good tournament, So.
Yeah. I mean, is it really worth spending, especially for you, Chris? I mean, is it worth coming across the seas, spend $3,000-$4,000 in hotel and airfare and everything that it's going to take to get over here for something that's not going to count anyways? I mean,
I did enter it last time, but I couldn't go last minute. I can't remember why I couldn't go. But it's different if you're playing for a living, which I'm not. If you're playing for a living, then it's quite a lot of outlay to possibly not get a lot of anything back. Elliot Sanderson, he went last year, and I think he got maybe like the last 30. I think he might have finished 33rd or maybe even 17th. I think he got 750. So and he beat a lot of good players on that run.
Well,
probably not. No.
If I remember right, I think he was coming to the U.S. anyways during that time though. I think he was going to Jacoby either before. He was already at Jacoby before or after or something like that.
Yeah, I was supposed to go with him, but he was going anyway. But even that trip, so going from wherever you are in Wisconsin, which is where Jacoby is, all the way down to Virginia, hotels.
I know. I made that. Yeah, I made that drive last year.
You drove it, right? Yeah, you drove it. Yeah. But yeah, it's not
15
enticing.
Hours? 15 hours, I think.
Loads of players say it's one of the best venues, though. Loads of players like that venue. I've never been there, so I can't say why. But
yeah, it's a great event.
The venue is actually it is really nice.
I just think if you're promoting the World 9-Ball Tour, then your priority should be to support the promoters that are, you take care of them, you protect them, make sure that people are adequately incentivized to sign up, because people are chasing points and they're chasing ranking events. And if it comes down to deciding whether I'm going to spend $1,500 at this event, that's not going to count for Mosconi, or a smaller venue where I can, spend less and maybe get, you know what I mean? That's a consideration,
But there's an incentive obviously for the promoters at the moment for those types of tournaments you're talking about. There's something to be said for getting in at the ground floor.
Mm-hmm.
This is the beginning of something, not the middle or the end. So, if they can get in now, put on good events, players like them, but players like the events and the promoters and things, then good things will happen, I'm sure.
And I think by and large, to Nate's point, like Matchroom's done a really good job of building this globally as a brand and getting big events in Europe, now getting events in Asia, getting stuff in the US. So as things kind of get built up, there's going to be refinement and all that stuff. And we're all for that. Obviously, you want to put forward the best product you can. And they're doing a jam of job. We're excited about 9-ball. People are doing what they can to go compete and pick and choose the events they want to play in. And I'm glad we're seeing a lot more American names that people maybe don't, have close familiarity with outside of the top, really top players. And even some international guys. It's great that Gerson went. Gerson almost double dipped the Sacramento event. He snapped off the one pocket, and then went really deep in the 9-ball. And now he's going to be at the World Cup of Pool with Chris Tevez, who's runner-up at the World 10-ball last year.
To Wojtek, yep.
Yeah, to Wojtek.
Yep.
And man, they're an awesome team. They're going to be an awesome dark horse team to watch play doubles, because Peru is basically like South American Philippines,
Okay.
Big on their Q sports like carom and pool, and they got a lot of heart. Not not the richest country, you know what I mean. So everything really matters to them, and they fight like hell. So Tevez really impressed me last year, and Gerson's a super nice guy and a great champion. So
very nice. I was very impressed. I've met Gerson once, and it was like 2 years ago, and he was at the Wisconsin Open, and he came right up to me. He's like, "Hey Nate, how's it going?" And I'm like, "Okay." I've talked to you once 2 years ago, and he like recognized. And then I kind of noticed he goes up to everybody like that he's ever met. He remembers almost everybody he's ever met. Like he's got one of those like photogenic type of like memories to people, and he always makes everybody that he sees feel special for, it's just very rare to see somebody like that. That's that nice.
Very good guy. Yeah, very good.
That kind of memory, and like he always wants to make everybody around him feel good about themselves. He's a really, really cool dude.
Yeah, super nice guy, and just really tough player. He played really great in the one pocket. He doesn't even play one pocket really. You know what I mean? Like I know he's been hanging out in Chicago, I think recently. So maybe he's had some like initial kind of like seasoning on how to, play through that. But still, he's going to improve as he gets more experience. Super talented. He's like close to 800 Fargo already, right? Like 790 or something.
Wow.
787.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, he's up there. So
he plays a ton, which is good. No, Angela, we have not talked about the WPBA event yet. We just kind of started in on this conversation. So I don't know. Let's cover the WPBA event. It was last week, of course, but we didn't have a podcast last week, so we should have talked about it last week, but we didn't. So here we are now. Kelly Fisher wins. It's the first actually time that she's won for a while now. It's been maybe 7 or 8 months. She had that stretch there where she was winning every single one of them. Yeah. Before the Asian players had gotten back, but she's back on the winning trail now, and pretty impressively so. She loses her third match, comes all the way back through the B side. She loses to Yuki Hiraguchi, who's a great Japanese player as well. Comes all the way back through the B side to, I guess, win in the over Christina Takech, who I think this is her first finals of a WPBA event. She's been in that 3rd to 4th to 5th, 6th range just about every single one of them, but I don't remember her making the finals of any of them. So Angela can chime in and tell me if I'm wrong on that. Wei Su Chen gets 3rd place. I guess, yeah, let's go back to 4th. Kaylee McIntosh gets 4th place. That's pretty awesome to see. An American young lady getting up towards the top, which is pretty awesome.
Florida girl.
Yeah.
Her and Sophia Masters did really good. I was going to give them both a shout out because Sophia had a double hill match with, I want to say it's Wei, if I'm not mistaken. I know she beat Lonnie Fox in a match, and then she had like a really tough.
You're saying Kaylee?
No, this is Sophia Mast.
Yeah.
She had a double hill match against one of the top Asian girls as well, I think Wei. And then Kaylee finished all the way in the top 4, which is Kaylee's really coming, man. She's really putting in work, and her dad does a lot to help support her and kind of keep her in action and doing good things. So both.
Yeah, Sophia lost opening round to Wei, and I'm pretty sure if I remember right, I think she was actually down like 5-2 maybe.
Yeah.
And got back and ended up winning. I guess 6 of the next 8 games, which is.
Yeah, so Sophia is so great. She's so level-headed and really kind of just positive and focuses and grinds, and she's going to be a good player when, she continues to progress and get that experience. And Kaylee's just super talented, super hardworking, very athletic, and she's going to be a force in women's pool when she kind of finally breaks through. And Christina, man, like, what a tough player. Really like. Whenever I see her play, I never get the sense of there's weakness there. You know what I mean? She's always very strong. She had what was it? Her that had the draw shot to scratch in the side instead of playing. Oh my god! First, I saw that shot on. I think it was live what was happening, and I was like, if you're really feeling the heat, you know what I mean. If you're really feeling it, the right shot is just to like pinch it back like 4 inches, maybe. You know what I mean? Like just stop the ball, maybe pinch it back a hair, and take the winning ball. I think it was a 9-ball up table, up in the corner, and you win the match, right? And she ended up drawing it back in the side, and brutal. Tough game.
I'll tell you what, Kelly Fisher did not have an easy draw on that B side either, coming all the way back through. She had to play Monica Webb, Caroline Pau, Margaret Fefilova.
Margaret's been playing really great lately too.
Yeah, Angela Janik, who's in the comments right now. And awesome. Then so in order, she plays Angela Janik, Monica Webb, Caroline Pau, Margaret Fefilova, Kristina Zlateva, Kaylee McIntosh, and Wei Su Chen, and then of course Christina to catch in the finals. Wow. That's about murderer's row for a WPBA event. That is murderer's row. You can't get too much tougher than that.
Yeah.
Hi, Chris.
Sorry, I'm still here.
Some pretty girl walk by or something?
Pretty much.
Get your attention?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Margaret's also been playing really good lately. She was at the Bobstock Memorial, yes. And she almost beat Donnie, I think, double hill. Donnie got away with that one. Like she's playing good. She's playing really good.
Yeah, and Kristina Zlateva is too. I know I said this in a previous podcast. Kristina Zlateva is, she works full time, but she's traveling all over the place. Obviously, she has to like be able to work remotely from wherever.
Yeah, good
but she's like up towards the top 2 and beating some really, really incredible players. I mean, she ends up losing to Kelly there on her murderer's row. But
yeah,
I mean, she beat Yuki Hiraguchi, Emily Duddy, and it's a lot of really great players. She's probably on the verge of breaking through. Hopefully, Kaylee McIntosh is on the verge of breaking through. It'd be nice to see some of the younger U.S. women get a chance at this.
Yeah. Well, Kaylee's definitely at the top of that list, I think.
It'd be really nice to actually see Brianna Miller get back into the game.
She's supposed to start wanting to start playing, and I talked to her. I think
she's been playing.
Yeah, she's kind of starting to.
Well, she just won an event this weekend.
Sweet. Yeah, she's a tough cookie. Whatever happened to Taylor Hansen?
Fell off. Doesn't play anymore. Her and her brother, Tristan Hansen's her little brother.
Yeah.
Actually, their dad listens to the podcast, is a big supporter for the show. But I think she went to Lindenwood, but I think she just doesn't play that much anymore. And of course, Mark has nothing to do with Lindenwood anymore, which is a big bummer with the program he built there.
Yeah, that program is no longer there, so that's why Mark's not there. But April also had a strong tournament. She had a good showing. I think she ended up beating Margaret in a really close match as well. So it's good to see her kind of back in the WPBA stuff. She really deserves to be there. All that nonsense about her not being able to play because she was playing in other regional events, like that's just silly. So they need to. She's too good of a player to not give her carte blanche access to represent the U.S. At any time. So.
Yeah, and then she lost Hill to Wei Su Chen, who's won like 3 of the last 4 of these. So
strong. Texas girl now, April Larson.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need an autograph from like all these girls before they get too big and too cool for school.
Probably. That might be a good idea. I mean, the women are definitely in good hands with some of the all-stars that are coming through right now.
They're in good hands with Allstate?
Something like that, yeah.
Call Allstate marketing department immediately.
we need to get Allstate involved. Allstate, start sponsoring us.
That's right.
Actually, I'm switching insurance right now because I'm going to go on a rant.
No, don't do it.
My insurance went up 35%, my auto insurance, and I called and canceled it immediately. And the reasoning for it was, Well, inflation and COVID is COVID is freaking done. And inflation is coming down. So why are you only now doing this? I'm angry. All right, there you go. I hate insurance.
Sorry, man.
35%.
Make sure to make your voice heard at the ballot box. Okay.
All 17 people that listen to this show are going to know how angry I am at insurance now, and it's going to make a difference. I'm telling you. What can you do? All right. So WPBA event. This was a couple weeks ago. We talked about, I guess, Oscars event. Did you have anything else about Oscars that you wanted to highlight?
Visit Hard Times. It's awesome. Food's pretty good too, and tables play great. So support them again.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're on the West Coast, get over there and give them all your money. WPBA, we were hoping to have Lonnie on for this. We were hoping to do it last week, and it just kind of fell through, which is why we didn't have a show last week. But we're back now. So I guess from the comments, Angela, if you want to highlight anything that you think we should know about that event, we'll call it out. And if not, I guess we can move on to the Spanish Open is starting tomorrow.
Right.
So that's pretty fun.
They just had the Bucharest Open too, right? Like at the IDM Club as a warm.
Yeah, and they had all the European Championships too.
How far is Bucharest from Spain? Because I know John Moore is like on the road right now driving. It's a few hours.
Probably a couple of hour flights. A couple of hours, probably. Yeah.
It's like a 5-6 hour drive or something.
Oh, drive. I'm not sure you'd really want to drive from there, to be honest. You've got to go through some
10 countries or something.
Well, yeah, and some of them are still a little bit shady. You've got to go all the way through the former Yugoslavia to get to Spain from there. So some of those places are still a little bit.
I saw Federer posted that he lost his cues at the airport. They still not arrived, so he's gotten some loaner Q-Tech cue to practice with while he's waiting on his stuff to come through customs. Brutal.
Yeah, you're probably not trying to drive from Romania. No. That's got to be probably 1,200 miles, maybe. Looks like.
Like Florida. What are you talking
about? Yeah. You're probably, especially once you get to Europe. That is the one thing that Europe definitely has right. Europe, you can get, if you're in Europe, you can get like anywhere else in Europe for like 150 for like 150 euros. It's anywhere. If you're pretty much.
Yeah, sort of. But then internal flights in the US are pretty cheap, right?
No, not really.
Depends on really. Depends on timing.
Yeah,
for
the
same.
And whether or not you want to fly Spirit.
Yeah, right. Or Frontier. Yeah.
Luck. Frontier, I actually what wasn't bad for me the one time I flew on it. Spirit, never again. You're done. Delta all day for me.
I'm a United. I got the United card. I'm firmly in the camp of United, but I also never had a problem with Delta. It's right. American that I can't stand.
Interesting.
Stupid. The Bucharest. Did you want to talk about the Bucharest Open or the European Championships or anything?
Well, I thought it was interesting that the European Championships were happening around the same time as the UK Open, right? So there was a bunch of guys that went to that instead of the UK Open.
Yeah. Yep. Some guys had to go to the European because of the federations.
Yeah, federational obligations and stuff. Yeah. I think Mike Pinoza had mentioned that before as well, that some of those guys are definitely not going to go to the UK Open because of that. But I think Conrad won. I saw a little bit of the match that him and Shane played in the semis, I think it was, or the quarters, because then he went off to play Tobias. Yeah, it went double hill, I think, right?
Yeah.
Conrad and Shane, and then he ran over Tobias, and then did he win in the finals against Keqing Wu? Conrad?
I think so. I think Chung got to the final. I can't remember now. I know Conrad. Got pretty much it.
Yeah. So it's Keqing Wu, who I think eliminated his brother to advance in the tournament. Yeah. So he beat Winnie to make the final, and then Conrad took it down. So good tournament for Conrad, because it's not like he had like a soft draw to get there at the end. You know?
Yeah. There's loads of players in Romania as well, guys that you've never have heard of, but they've got some really strong players there.
Right.
They've got, their economy compared to the rest of Europe prevents a lot of them from traveling. So Yeah, but they've got some strong players there, and that club that they play in is amazing. It's one of
The
the best
IDM
clubs I've
looks
ever been in.
looks super nice. Yeah, it looks super nice.
Yeah,
from what I've
crazy.
seen. Good for them. So yeah, congrats to Conrad snapping it off. He's one of your buddies, right? Polish.
Yeah, wow.
Pal?
Anybody who's Polish is my friend. Starting now.
Sausage chaser.
Stop it. It's all about the vodka.
That's right. Hey, Shen, how's it going? It was really funny because I was at Oscar's tournament and I kept hearing people say, like the announcer at the kitchen say, food order ready for Shan Damani. And I see Shan running, who the hell keeps putting stuff on my tab? And this is right after I see Skyler walk past the other way. So like I just put something on Shan's tab. So it's like really hilarious. It was really sorry, Shan, for whatever your bill was. I hope Skyler tipped you out.
Yeah, it's Skyler in the Calcutta.
I don't know what was going on, but Skyler had a steak horse at the kitchen at Hard Times. So
Nice. Well, I guess I don't know. We can talk a little bit about. I got to give a shout out to Wojtek Szewczak because of course he was the all around MVP of the European Open, which is kind of cool.
very cool.
Because yeah, my friend gets the MVP, which is fun.
European Championships, not the Open, right?
Or the European Championships.
Yeah.
Did I say the European Open?
You
Yeah.
did.
Oh, my bad.
I'm gonna pause real quick. Okay, I'll be right back.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like some people, have jobs and stuff. Weird.
Crazy.
And we'll give a shout out to Pia Filler as well for also winning gold out there. I don't know. I didn't watch hardly any of that, so I don't know. Did you watch enough of it to want to talk about any of it?
The only thing I watched was the women's final, and probably the less said about that, the better. To be honest, it's not good. Yeah, I don't know if it was nerves or something, but the standard wasn't not the best.
Yeah, a little bit of rough.
Yeah.
I mean, not every single match can be Eklund Kachi and Joshua Filler in the finals, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
I think there's gains to be made there in the women's game, but I don't see the game improving very much for them as individuals unless they start playing in the big open events with the men. I just don't see it happening for them.
well, if they get their own events too. I mean, at the end of the day, there's really not a lot of events going on in Europe, right, for the women. I mean, at the end of it, you can say whatever you want about the Euro Tour. The men can't survive on the Euro Tour, so there's no way that the women can either, right? And there's in the U.S., if there's one thing, I mean, Calcutta's for the women events can get large amounts of money.
Yeah, that's good.
Plus, the WPBA does have, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 added events. That doesn't exist in Europe.
That doesn't exist. That's true.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist for the men or the women.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, Matchroom is doing their part, but they're doing their part for the men, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Predator,
and we
They're open events.
Predator has been doing a great job for the women, I think.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there are a few of the big added those women events for that. I guess the one at the end of the day, I mean, there's a lot of really, really, really great players, lady players that don't play full time. Like, can you think of any players besides maybe Kristina Tkach, Margaret Fefalova, and Pia Filler that play full time? And Kelly but Kelly does well. Yeah, I guess she's still living in the UK. I mean, are there any other full time players for the ladies' side that live in Europe?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
And technically, Christina and Margaret, I guess, live in the U.S., right?
Yeah.
They both live in the U.S. And
so
Pia travels with Josh wherever they're going.
Yeah. So Josh and so Pia and Kelly are the only two women's players in all of Europe that play full time.
Yeah.
I mean that in itself has to tell you something about the state of the money in Europe.
It's money in pool in general, though, isn't it? How many players in the world really can call themselves professional? And I mean, can actually live off their prize money winnings? Not a great deal.
Well, there's probably 50 to 100. Yeah, maybe Yasmin. Does Yasmin? No, I'm saying Yasmin. I forgot about her. Does she play full time?
Yeah.
Well,
Well, she's on Dancing with the Stars every once in a while. So
yeah.
But that's it. She won that, didn't she?
Sure.
I think she won the Austrian Dancing with the Stars, or made like.
No, she got second. She got second.
Yeah.
Second place, yeah. And I'm sure that turned into a lot of. I would like to think that turned into a lot of marketing opportunities for her.
She did a book, right? After that, I think she'd like sell a book or something.
I think so.
Yeah.
But she hasn't hardly played pool since then. So I mean, she must be doing something to keep her time fill, right?
I'd assume so. Yeah.
She's played maybe 10 events since. I mean, at least the big events that she has. I mean, you don't see her at many of you maybe see her at half of the WPBA events. Maybe. She wasn't at the Iron City. She wasn't at Wisconsin. Yeah, I don't think she was at the Wisconsin Open.
Right.
Not that was a PBA event, but there was a Predator event.
Was she at the European Championships? Was there a women's division for that?
There was a women's division. I don't remember seeing her.
I didn't see her name anywhere. I think she'd be at the latter end of that.
I would think you'd see her. You'd think you'd see her at the final, or around the finals at least, especially for the, without Kelly being there, or Christina or Margaret, or I don't know. Hard to say.
So Spanish Open's coming up, right?
Yep, Spanish Open's coming up.
Wu is back. Wu Keqing, it's back.
And Chris and I were talking about this as far as the betting. Chris, why don't you, because you were looking at the numbers, just give a little rundown of the Wu Keqing betting lines.
So Matchroom posted on Instagram earlier. They had, I think, maybe the top 10 or 15 favorites in the betting. And the last two people on the list were John Morra and Wojciech at 30 to 1. And Wu's name wasn't on there. So that says to me that Wu is a higher price than 30 to 1, which is insane. It's like worse than the Coast situation when he was 20 to 1 for the Masters. God. So if Wu's like bigger than 30 to 1, I think that's just absolutely crazy.
Take my money. Here's 100.
I know. I know he hasn't been at an event in maybe like 4 years or something.
Yeah, since the US Open in the US, what was it, like 2019 or something? 2020?
But there's never been I can't think of any. I don't think there's ever been a talent like him in 9-ball pool, right? Or American style pool. He won the Worlds when he was 16, and he won the World 9-ball at 16, and won the World 8-ball when he was still 16, or maybe just when he turned 17.
Yeah.
And he's just a freak of nature.
That said, against Kuo Po Chang is so strong because Kuo Po Chang plays safe and gives a ball in hand. On the hill, Wu needing 5 racks, and Wu runs the setup. Kuo never gets to the table. And this is like, pudgy, sweaty Wu Keqing when he's 16 and he's still a growing boy, and he held his nerve and just, really showed his talent. It's a shame. How old is he now? Because he's got to be either like late 20s, early 30s.
30. Yeah, something like that.
He's got to be around 30, yeah.
We have missed out, unfortunately, for whatever reason, on this young filler and Gorst age range that we're getting with those kind of guys, right? Where, I think they should all be sending him a percentage, like a 5% gapper for not coming, really the guy is like he's the man, you know what I mean? Like he is like,
he proves this week. Yeah, if he wins this week, you're going to have a strong argument to say he's not the best in the world because he's in the conversation. Definitely.
And it's funny because I've seen, for instance, I see Shane, right? Shane here in the US. And I've seen Shane go into modes where he just treats his opponent like he doesn't even exist, right? When he's playing at his top, like when he was playing at the top end of his winning all his US Open, titles, he would make the diamond final table just look like a joke, and he would do things that are just like stupid. And then there would be times where he would go, like, let's say overseas or something, and he'd run into a couple players, and it was a guy like Wu, a guy like Big Ko, or Cheng Lin, you know what I mean? Where there would be like this is like another I can see him get in his head a little bit about playing them, and he would change his style of play, almost becoming too offensive. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And kind of stretch a little bit, like take shots that if he's just playing another person, he's going to play it like maybe a different shot. You know what I mean? But he's almost like he wants to keep him off the table so bad that he'll overextend, and then he'll cause them an error, and then they do what they do. And Wu is one of the only few people I've ever seen kind of like draw that out of Shane. And I've heard Shane say like he's unbelievable. I've heard him like acknowledge that Wu is like really that great. So it's kind of unfortunate for the pool world, right? That we saw him at 15, 16 as brilliant star. You know what I mean? Like just shine, like, oh my God. And then he kind of like gets caught up in, I don't know, political stuff and obviously the COVID thing. And, but there's a long time we haven't seen him on the international stage. Like we've seen Josh was
since 20. The last time we saw him, he won the US Open.
He got second.
Yeah,
but
he got beat in the final.
Yeah, he had that.
Oh, yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
Is whatever. That like never happens. You know what I mean? But like he's right there, and we hadn't seen him in a while. You know what I mean? Since then, so hopefully this will be an open door for him to kind of just compete regularly, and we get to see, probably the most talented Asian player.
That's a statement.
Yeah,
but it's hard to argue with it.
I mean, he is. They say Guopo Chang is more talented than Ko. I would argue that Wu is probably definitely more talented than Guopo Chang.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to say. I honestly don't think that 30-1 is out of line for him though. For this, I mean, I know that you guys are saying take my money, but I don't disagree with the number, and I don't disagree with the number only because we haven't seen him for 4 years now.
Yeah,
and that he hasn't traveled out of China.
And he looks fit. Like I watched the little clip that they put. Like he looks thin. He looks in shape. Like he doesn't look like he's let himself go at all. You know what I mean? And pool is one of those games too that you can play, competitively long into your 50s and 60s. So it's like, hopefully we get to see a lot of him doing his thing.
The only thing that I would say is I think it's set up right because like I wouldn't bet any money on him. I wouldn't bet on any money. There is something to he hasn't left the country in I guess at least 4 years basically, and there is something like jet lag is a real thing. I mean, unless he's going to the Spanish Open a week in advance and he can actually get through that.
Yeah, who knows what his travel plans have been?
Yeah, and it's a lot harder, in my opinion, at least, to go west than it is east. And if you go east, and you can just kind of you can kind of fade the whole sleep situation, but going backwards, I don't know. I just find it a lot harder personally. But I just think that 4 years of not experiencing jet lag and then going in and expecting to play at your highest level against some of the best players in the world. And the Spanish Open is an absolute murderer's row of top players.
He's not seeded, so I think I saw the bracket that he'll have to play. I think Wojciech second round, right? If he wins his first round match, like he's got to play like a top player second round.
Yeah.
So
I gotta take a look at it. Honestly, I haven't looked at the drawing much.
Tough for what I think somebody had said that if he wins second round, he's got to play like a big tough match like right away, and that's going to be brutal for whoever draws the boy.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's with being unseeded, he's going to have to play somebody absolutely brutally tough, right?
Right away, yeah.
So
we'll see, and he'll probably be on the TV table. So, is that a DAZN thing in the US, or is it going to be on YouTube, or probably both?
To be honest,
table 2 on YouTube, Matchroom Pool.
Yeah, maybe. To be honest, I haven't even looked at what this is going to be on. No, this is the Spanish Open. This doesn't have anything to do with Matchroom.
What do you mean? It's a ranking open. It's a ranking.
Yeah. But Matchroom isn't putting it on, right? So it's not going to be through DAZN.
Yeah,
DAZN is the ones. They're the ones streaming it.
Let's see. Yeah, DAZN and YouTube. I hear in the US and Sky Sports in in Europe. Yeah, this is like the UK Open all over again. This is like US Open, same thing.
Oh, well, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I got to. I don't even know if my DAZN a DAZN thing is active.
I don't know.
Last I knew, I paid for an entire year, so
Yeah.
I don't know when that year. I end up just basically at most of these events.
Huh?
Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. Leave me alone.
Well, anyhow, Wu is. I'm really excited to watch him play, and it's gonna be fireworks as soon as, like you said, he's unseated because he hasn't been playing. But that's no consolation to whoever draws him.
No, absolutely not.
So,
I just don't think that 30 to 1 is out of line for somebody we haven't seen in 4 years and hasn't had the experience of traveling for that long too.
I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what the line actually is, so I can send a hundo on behalf of my good friend. So
yeah, I think Chris might take it for you. Put that bet in for you.
That's right. I gotta have a UK friend to place a bet. Chrissy boy.
Yeah, we can have a chat about it. Nate, what odds do you think he is to win it then? If you think 30 to 1 is too short?
Honestly, I'd probably put him in the 14 to 18.
Yeah,
somewhere in there.
I'd say that's probably about fair. That makes him one of the favorites. That makes him 4th or 5th favorite.
I mean, at the end, I would say that. Well, I honestly I don't know. In a situation like this, I wouldn't bet it no matter what. Like I just wouldn't touch it because he could end up being 10 to 1, and he also could be 70 to 1. We haven't seen him in 4 years. We don't know how he's going to handle the travel. We don't even know if he's been playing for 4 years. We assume he has been. But
I would say this: a line like that is going to encourage people to bet, and I think that's ultimately what the bookies want, right? They want money getting in there. So that's
sure.
They just haven't considered it, maybe.
I mean, we've already found out that the odds makers aren't very good at what they do with pool yet, right? we kind of established that.
Well, they used to get some of the pool players to help out with the odds. So I think William Hill, which is a big bookmaker in the UK, I think Darren Appleton helped. Oh, in the US too now. I think Darren Appleton helped them with some of the odds in 2019. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. So I think he helped make some of the lines there, or give them some info anyway. But if they are just going off like Wikipedia and the AZB money list over the last 4 or 5 years, then they are hanging themselves out to dry. I mean, the co-price was crazy for the Masters, completely crazy. So
well, in hindsight, the Eklund price was pretty crazy too, right? Because I think he was 18 to 1 or something like that for that event too. I don't think he was much ahead of Co, if I remember right.
Yeah, I guess so.
And for people like Shane, I mean, Shane is always going to be ridiculously overpriced. He's probably at this point in his career, he's probably closer to double whatever he's supposed to be than wherever he's at.
Yeah, he's 9 to 1 for the tournament this week. The favourites, Fran, and he's 13 to 2, which is 6.5 to 1.
Yeah.
And then
which is probably right.
He might be favourite, but 6.5 to 1. Look,
that's pretty high. That's pretty high.
There's a lot of value still in the prices, is what I'd say. So they used to do the same with the snooker. There used to be a lot of value in the snooker betting for a lot of years. But 5 or 6 years ago, Ronnie O'Sullivan was favourite, and he was 13 to 2 or 15 to 2, and he was the favourite, and he took it down, and everybody had bet on him, and the bookies got stung big time. And now the price on like Ronnie winning the Worlds, it's not until next April. But if you look at it now, I bet he's like 7 to 2 or something. So they've like slashed the prices in half.
Yeah, I mean, this is what happens when you're offering a market to something that you don't know anything about, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of I listen to a couple betting podcasts, and there's people that are betting like European water polo because there's a market for it, and of course you can't hardly get any money down on it. I mean, you're like the limits on it are like $1,000. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the limits are for pool. I'm sure there is a limit. I doubt you could just walk up and put $150,000 on.
No chance.
Yeah, I mean, I maybe you would know this. Do you know what the caps are? I would guess it's probably
About
1,000
100
euros.
quid. Oh, but I don't
Is
think you
it?
can get that much. Probably about 100 or something.
Is it?
You
Yeah,
would-
I mean that
yeah,
would make
probably.
sense. You're basically
So if you bet online, then a lot of the times now, if it's on a market that's not really known, or you've picked something that's a massive outsider, it'll take a fraction of your bet and then pass the rest of the bet off to a trader to look at, to authorize, so a human being to authorize.
Yeah, I mean that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
They're trying to offer a market without having really any risk, right? Is what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Give you something to sweat while also, I don't know. I guess we're watching Wucha. Their Matchroom made a post 3 hours ago with Wu Ching. So
Oh, really?
yeah, just doing some practice and stuff, which is interesting, kind of fun.
It's great for them to have him back.
Yeah, I would say that I guess to round out what I was talking about earlier with the number with him, I wouldn't set the number at anything. I just don't feel like I have any idea what he would be or should
But
be.
if you were the bookmaker, what would you say?
If I was the bookmaker, having not seen him for 4 years and knowing that he hasn't stepped foot out of the country for 4 years, 35 to 40, somewhere in there would be. And now if it was 4 years ago, I'd be putting him at 9-2, something
you
like
have him
that.
second or third favorite, right?
Yeah, right around 11 to 2, maybe 16-3, something like that. But yeah, I mean, we haven't seen that, and we don't know what that can. I mean, we saw how long it took for the Coe brothers to bounce back, and they were only gone for a year. I mean, how long did it?
I know, but come on, no disrespect to any of the Coes, but Wu's different. It's a different.
No, I don't agree with that. I mean,
come on.
Different. Okay, so different in what sense? Are we talking about like the potentially the most talented of all time compared to potentially the 7th most talented of all time?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't say that Keqing Chung is not one of the greatest talents the game has seen.
I wouldn't differentiate between. I wouldn't put Chung over Keqing Wu and talent wise. I wouldn't think.
Maybe, but then either one of them. Do you really think that Wu Ching has done? I mean,
yeah,
I'll tell you what.
Champion at 16.
I would say, yeah, sure, but I don't think that if you just look at the resume of what they've done, both of the Coe brothers have done more than Wu Ching has done. If you look at their entire career, Now, with that being said, of course, Wu Ching has not played a 10th of the tournaments that either one of those two have.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I understand that. I completely understand that. I don't. Wu Ching is an absolute beast of a talent. I agree with that, but I don't look at the Coe brothers as being far behind him, if at all, as far as talent. I mean, the dude is. Both of them are just sick.
They are great players. There's no dispute in that. There's no dispute in it. I just think Wu's on a different.
So who do you put in Wu's category of talent?
I would say Wu's. I would say potentially Wu's up there with talent-wise the best players ever.
Like who?
Well, who would be your best players ever? I mean, everybody
knows
who we're talking about. So everybody
I'm
knows.
asking you.
You're talking best 9-ball players ever. You're talking Shane. You're talking Al. Yeah. Those types of players. Wu's got all the ability in the world. He's got bottle. Won big stuff when he was a kid. Won big stuff when he was an adult. He almost won the US Open when he hadn't really played all that much leading up to it. And he lost it through probably the weirdest error ever, touching a ball. So, I put him right up there with anybody. I think that'll play out as well over the next. Hopefully, he plays in all the events for the next year, and then you can apologise to me in 12 months' time.
I'm happy to. I just don't. I just don't think. I don't think that. I just don't think that there's that big of a gap between them. I don't think that there's enough of a gap between. No, it's all speculation. But I would say there is not enough of a gap between them to justify ignoring how long it took for the Coe brothers to get back. And it took them over a year basically to get back to where they were when COVID hit, right? I mean, we were looking at the Coe brothers as being top top 5 to top 7 players in the world. And I think
Mhm.
right now, if you were to make a list, I think it'd be really hard to keep both of them off of your top, let's say 7 list.
Yeah.
And I
Agreed.
think it took them over a year to get back to that point to where we're looking at them as being that level again. And I just don't think that Wu Keqing is so much more ultra talented than those two that we can just say, all right, well, we haven't seen him for 4 years. He's right where he was the last time we saw him.
I know, but we haven't seen him. It's not to say he hasn't been doing anything. There's plenty of good players in China, plenty of great players in China that never leave the country.
Well, I agree with that, but you don't think that the Ko brothers had an opportunity to do the same exact thing Wu Keqing would be doing in 4 years, and it still took
Don't
them a
know.
year.
Yeah.
Still took them a year.
Yep.
Right? You're telling me? I mean, the Ko brothers have this magical thing where they have 3 world-class players under the same household they could battle against anytime they want.
Yeah, and then all the other Taiwanese players, that
Yeah,
probably, I'd assume they've got access to all practice together at some point during the year.
It's not that big of a country. Chang Jung
Yeah.
Lin, Fo Wei Shu. I mean, there's a lot of and
What
that
happened to
doesn't
Kevin
even-
Cheng?
Oh yeah, there's a name I haven't heard for a little
Yeah.
while.
Yeah, because he.
The last time we saw him, he was I think he was battling those 3 races of 25 with James Aranis. He beat
When
James
was
Aranis
that?
2 out of 3 sets. Oh, this was a couple months before. I mean, Melina Mike's in the comments. So he maybe he can remember when. I don't know if he's still here, but I think it was a couple months before COVID. They were playing in like Louisiana or something like that. They played like 2 out of 3 sets, or they played 3 sets to 25, I believe. And
Right.
Kevin won. Either Didi won 2 out of 3 or Kevin won 2 out of 3. But I'm pretty sure Kevin won 2 out of 3 of those sets.
Yeah, he's unbelievable player.
No, you know what? I know that James Aranis lost 2 out of 3 sets because I remember Roy's Basement making a post where James Aranis was outside mowing, and he's like, "This is the most expensive mowing job I've ever hired," because he lost him a bunch of money. He made him mow the lawn. So that was, yes, I think that was actually right leading up to COVID, because I think when he made that post, I think that it was like pretty soon after. I think James and Filler played that race to 100.
Oh, okay.
And that was during the early part of COVID.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken. But no, I don't know what happened to Kevin Cheng.
Yeah, he's some player. He won that event leading up to the 2019 US Open, the WPA Championship or the WPA Players Championship. He won that. I remember that.
Yeah.
And then did he win? When did he beat Boys in the US Open final? Maybe that was like 2014 or something. That might have been a long time before that, to be honest. Yeah. Yeah, but he's some player. But there's there's a load of guys all over Asia that we've never heard of, or that we've forgotten about, that would fill up 50 spaces on the top 100. Just unbelievable amount of talent.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see how many Americans would be left on like the Fargo top 100 if we just magically had let's say 1 billion games worth of data between China, Taiwan, Philippines.
Yeah.
Like just those 3 countries, and seemingly Vietnam now. It seems like every tournament there's a new Vietnamese player I've never heard of before that makes the final 16. Yeah. It'd be really interesting to see what the Fargo top 100 list would look like with just 1 billion games of data between those 3 countries.
Yeah.
How many more 800 level players would be out there that we've never even heard of? That
100 something more, God knows.
And most of them are between the ages of 13 and 18.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. Rox,
who are you picking as your winner?
Well, let's answer Rock's question first. How do you feel about the line for Mora?
30-1. I think that if he's going to snap off something massive, it's going to take a couple more years of him playing left-handed, which I think is just an unbelievable achievement. I think it's crazy.
I did an interview with him on the way to the US Open last year. He gave me a ride down there from the Sandcastle Billiards event, and he says that he thinks he's playing better left-handed now than he ever
Wow.
played right-handed because he knows that he has to stay within himself playing left-handed. He can't do things that he can do right-handed, and so because of that, he has to play the game in a more strategic, intelligent way. You've all seen how many 15-year-old kids are coming out of Europe right now that you watch play, and it's like, oh my God, they don't miss anything, right? But what's the Riku from Finland? I mean, he had that giant or that stretch there where he beat like Sky Woodward in like the Las Vegas Open, and he had like a pretty deep run in that. And we haven't seen a ton of him since. And I'm not saying he's not a good player, because he is an absolute beast of a player. But we've seen him in opportunities since. I mean, I think he played the Shane Van Boening Open, or the Shane Van Boening Junior Open at the US Open, and he didn't win that. And it's like, you kind of look around and it's like, well, why hasn't he done much? But you see a lot of these kids and they're like, oh my God, they never miss. They fire balls in from everywhere. What you don't see is the next month they don't have the run that they have when they catch your eye.
Yeah.
So it'll be because they play that way, right? I mean, there's something about a 16-year-old to 18-year-old that they don't have that fear yet, right? They don't play the game scared. And a lot of the top players have talked about this, like the transition from playing like aggressive all the time to like kind of refining their game and, figuring out when to take your chances and when to play safe. And if there's something, where was I going with this?
I'm not sure.
I lost my train of thought now. But there's something to like getting that switch into the new side. I forgot where I was going with this. But
I didn't.
What were you talking about?
I'm not sure. I didn't think the kids were allowed to play in the junior plus the open event at the Matchroom things. I thought they had to pick one or the other. I know that was the case at the UK one. They had to pick one or the other.
Well, did they start it at the same time there?
Started like 2 days after or something. I think that was the same at the US Open. I think that started like 3 days after.
I think that was 3 days after. Yeah. So I think they were down to like the final, like 32 or maybe 64 when they started the juniors. So maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But there was a kid from Sweden. I can't remember his name now. You know, the kid who beat Tyler Steyer at the UK Open?
Yeah. That's.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Rox. So the John Moore part of it, So what he kind of said to me in that interview was, he was like, he was saying, like, I looked at the game when I was playing right-handed as like, which ball can I make? And he had to make the transition when he played left-handed to which shot can I not miss? And that was a huge like reckoning for him to like relook at his game and redefine his game mentally from like basically saying, all right, how do I run out to how do I not run out? It becomes more about like damage control than it is running racks over and over and over again. And he said that switch mentally really helped his game. Because now he has the ability to go both ways, right? He knows that in the moment, if he needs to do it, he can kind of bring in that right-handed mentality of like, all right, let's bear down, grab my lunch pail, and let's just go to work on this shot. Or he can look at the rack more from a left-handed perspective, where he's like, all right, well, how do I not mess this up? How do I play the run out that is going to most likely get me out of this rack, right?
Yeah.
Or when do I duck for cover, right?
Yeah, but there is unbelievable achievement.
You see that transition happen a lot with players that are coming into their element as either an adult or just growing into a more mature player, is playing more for damage control than
you get battle
running
scars,
out all the
don't
time.
you? You just get scarred up and you bad memories, flashbacks, all sorts of stuff going on.
Yeah, but as far as that going into the 30-1, I'm looking at a lot of these things, and like a lot of these numbers are just, if you just look at it like player to player, like how in the world could you possibly put Viktor Zielinski twice as high as Wojtek Szewczuk? If you ask those two who the better player is, you'll actually get that both of them will answer the opposite way. Wojtek will say Viktor, and Viktor will say Wojtek. Those two are
humble.
Well, sure, but tell me, does it sound wrong?
It doesn't sound wrong.
Viktor is definitely out there playing more, so you see him a little bit more. He has more bullets, But I don't know. Wojtek Szewczak has more wins and he plays less events. I mean, I'm not
More
saying that
wins, but
Victor's.
he's a lot older, right? He's a lot old. He's
Yeah.
a lot older than
He
than
is. Yep,
Victor.
definitely.
The thing with Zielinski is that once he starts regularly making the last 16 stages of tournaments or the last 32, now that Matchroom have restructured their events, you just wouldn't be surprised to see him take off and just blow the next 4 or 5 players away and win with like a record low deficit in frame count. He's just got just a stupid gear. It's unbelievable.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, Wojtek has the ability to just kind of grind you into submission too. I mean, the way that the way that he grinds a game would. I don't think,
grind doesn't sound
great,
does it? It's not a grind, but he's just. When do you ever really see him play the wrong shot or back to your point on shot? You never really see him go for anything that you think, well, that's like he's pushing the boat out or anything.
Well, I mean, they definitely have different playing styles. I mean, Victor is
Yeah.
much more in the Joshua Filler camp, and Wojtek is definitely more in the Ralph Souquet type of game, right? I mean, that's
more rounded type of game, yeah, more rounded, more like mature type of game, you'd say.
Sure. No.
But Victor won't carry on. Wait till Victor's in his 30s. He won't be going for everything anymore. Maybe he will, but it'd be absolutely crazy if he carries on doing that.
That was my exact point. Like, a little bit ago, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, the idea that you're going to have. I mean, I don't know. I'm looking at this and these numbers, and I guess I should actually let's just pull them up on screen so people can see them as we welcome Ray back. The idea that you have Aleska as like 30-1, the same as Wojtek. The idea of that is just completely dumbfounding to me. It's absolutely completely dumbfounding why you can put those two on the same line. And Keqing Chung at 25-1.
Great price, unbelievable price.
Yeah, that's what.
I mean, here I'll pull these up so everybody can see. The idea that you have Keqing Chung at 25-1. What has David Al-Qaedi done besides being, and maybe they put David Al-Qaedi at 20-1 because he is Spanish and he think, they're going to get a lot of money on him. So juice his number up so that you're basically, collecting more money
because of the top
home soil, home support. He loves that stuff. Does it put him above Fedor and people like that? No, but
yeah, I mean, I mean, David Al-Qaedi is obviously an incredible player, but he hasn't won much since, I guess, the Masters in, was it 2019, 2018 that he won that? Has he won a major event since?
Well, there's only a handful of people that have won Matchroom majors. They're the majors, the actual Matchroom events, aren't they? So there's only a handful of people, and they're great players that haven't won them. So I wouldn't say anything bad about him because of that. But
sure. And I'm not trying to say anything bad about him.
No, I get it.
Trying to justify these numbers, right?
You can't really, apart from the top 6 names on that list, the rest of the prices are all way up for debate.
I would say that there's a couple in there that are way up for debate. I don't think that Shane Wolford in any sort of way deserves to be 9-1.
Second favorite. You don't think he's second? You don't think he should be second favorite? Regardless, if you just forget the price for a minute, you don't think he's second favorite?
No way. Not even close.
That's interesting.
Well, Joshua Filler's won how many events since the last time Shane won something?
Well, Shane won the Worlds 18 months ago. Filler's won what? The UK Open.
I believe he won the European Open.
Right? Did he?
I believe so. I mean, I don't. He's won. I don't know. I don't. Shane is always up towards the top of all of these, and I'm not trying to say that he's not worth that kind of number, but I mean, at the end of the day, you got to win something. You have to.
No, I know.
Or make deep runs, and he hasn't made a lot of deep runs either. I mean, Kachi's won the last 2 major events, and he's 3-1 behind Shane.
What are you counting as the majors, though? What are you saying on Kachi? The World 10 Ball, and then...
No, he just snapped off the
Masters,
didn't he?
No, Co won the Masters.
He was in the finals of the Masters, the UK Open, and then the World 10 Ball.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's like that's kind of like a "what have you done for me lately" type of argument, but a "what have you done for me lately" argument is better than the last time you did anything for me argument, right?
I suppose so, yeah.
I don't know. Do you agree with that or not, Ray?
Yeah, I think Kachi should probably be slightly ahead of Shane. I'd probably put Filler's probably right. Ko is probably about right. Shane should probably be around 11-1, 11, 12-1. I mean, it's not far off,
Yeah, I would go with that. I would probably put him at 13-1.
I'd probably put Albin a little bit longer odds because for the same reason he hasn't really been producing a ton lately.
I agree with that.
And I'd probably move Keqing Wu up to like around 15, 16-1. Mario borderline, he's another one that's kind of like.
Honestly, you could make a pretty good argument to move him up or down, maybe.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I agree with that.
I
could make a really strong argument to move him up to 15-1. I could also make a pretty good argument to move him back to 25-1.
Max, I'd probably move down a little bit.
What are you saying about Fedor?
Federer's probably still, well,
I think that's probably right for him.
He's not got his cues, but I think until he proves himself on the Matchroom stage, it'll probably be like this. You know what I mean? Where everybody knows, and it's just a matter of him kind of like doing what he does on these, in these events. So, and that'll come. He's got a good head on his shoulders, and he's got everything else to go with it. So he'll be fine.
Just a matter about putting it all together.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
And I think Fedor gets a little bit of a, it's kind of like the Jason Shaw argument, right? Where Jason, it's not that Jason plays bad in Matchroom events. It just seems that like he finds somebody who plays way, 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 way above their caliber, and next thing you know, Jason has like 2 wins, and it looks like he got completely shellacked, but he got to the table exactly twice in the set, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people.
He's got to change colognes. Jason's got to change colognes.
Yeah, he might have to. Yeah, I mean, you look at last year, and there was a lot of flack that that they have the same World Cup of pool team, but I think Jason took 1 shot last year, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 2 shots, and same with
Elliot.
Yeah, Elliot Sanderson. He took 1 shot. What do you do? I mean,
That's nothing you can do.
How do you say that they're not worthy of running it back when Elliott's? I mean, and he didn't even shoot an offensive shot, right? He played a safety that was maybe like 4 or 5 inches short of pace.
Yeah. I mean, if that game had worked out the other way and it was Elliot and Jace that got the same chances that Jim and Chris got, then it would have been the same result, just the other way around. Pretty sure.
That's 9 ball.
So,
who do you like for the tournament? Did you already talk about your picks?
No, he had asked me, and then we went on with Rack's question. So about the John Mora, basically where he's at. I don't think you need to have Alexa or John Mora on this, unfortunately, because I do really like John Mora, but I don't think he should be 30-1. I don't think that there's enough justification for his Matchroom results to put him that high.
I wonder how they came up with this list. Was this just like top, or is it just like random people that they selected, or are these just the top rank? The top.
Not sure.
You have to assume that these are the highest, right? That these are the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Based
6,
on
7,
ranking,
8, 9, the top 18. I would assume you'd have to assume that, right?
Yeah, you'd have to. Yeah,
probably.
I don't know. I guess go Ray. Do you want to give your pick for this?
I don't know. I mean, Kachi's been playing so good, like Kachi's playing really great. You got to assume that he's not going to forget how to break, and he's going to remember which side of the cue to hold. I think he's going to probably look good to run deep. I've liked him too against guys like Filler and FSR. He's really been dominant, to be fair. So I think he's probably playing the best form right now. If I pick 3 guys, I'd probably pick Kachi, Little Ko, looks strong. And then I really want to see what Wu does, Seeing him kind of back in the stage is exciting. It's compelling stuff. and we can see if he can make a run. Should be fun either way.
So your pick, and then one dark horse.
I'll take Wu as a dark horse, and I'll pick Kachi to go deep.
Okay, Chris, what do you think?
I'm going to do what I normally do. I'm just going to say Jay to win, and Wu's my dark horse.
Jay is your pick and your dark horse at the same time.
Nah, just yeah.
Well, as much as we all love Jason, how close is he to becoming a dark horse pick in one of these things? If I pick Jason as my dark horse, do you think I'd be out of line?
No.
I don't know. All right, I'll take Keqing Wu because I think that I still think Keqing Wu is the more talented of the two brothers, and 25-1 is absolutely insane to me. And you know what? As my dark horse, I'm going to pick Conrad. Why not? Coming off of a win, he's got some confidence coming in.
The juice.
He might be riding high.
Jushishin?
Yeah, Conrad Jushishin. We'll see. Might be fun. Who knows? But I'll make this prediction. This will be a fun one. Ready? There will be 8 Polish players in the final 32, and there will be 4 in the final 16.
That's strong. I mean, that's what they do every event, isn't it?
Pretty
They
much, yeah.
get to the business end, they're all there waiting, threatening. One of them makes it.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess what do you guys think? Is this good? We we could talk about Fedor getting beat by Carlo Beato.
I've got to go, but you guys carry on. I've got to go though.
Sure. Is that something you want to talk about at all, Ray? Thanks, Chris.
I didn't get to watch any of it because now it's behind a pay-per-view wall on Sharks. Yeah. And I'm not sure what the format was, if they were playing break and push out after the break, or they were playing winner break, and whether it was a neutral racker or template or anything like that. So without those details, it's hard to tell. I know last time Federer and Carlo played in 9-ball format, it was not close, and Federer did Federer things.
Drilled him, yeah.
Drilled him, and played, awesome. So, if I'm assuming it was 10-ball and the same rules, like the break, you have to play safe or push out after the break. And, at that point, I think he lost to Raga as well, right? Raga just edged him out. Or did Raga beat FSR? I can't remember how that went. Francisco was also there.
I'll figure it out. Go ahead.
That's right. He lost to Basset Moikabat, who's one of these guys that somebody needs to sponsor that guy and let him come to these Matchroom events, figure out the break, and then come to these events, because he's too good to not be competing. And I think he's probably the best player in the Philippines right now. Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable thinking that he's the best player in the Philippines right now. And so it'd be interesting to see him play internationally. I know he tortured Chang Junlin, and apparently he beat Federer as well. So, what else do you want, So
yeah, I was gonna say I thought it was normal rules. I didn't think it was the push out.
Because they've been doing that race to 63 thing over 3 days, 31 or whatever, and push out safety first inning after the break. That's how he played Chang, and he beat Chang that way pretty bad. But if it was just regular rules and it was a referee rack, then that's tough, because it's it's hard to string together those big racks when racks are inconsistent. So I don't know. It was a close match either way, which you'd expect with 2 top players. But yeah, I think Sharks is doing some really cool stuff. They used to have those free streams, and now they're PPV or whatever. It's kind of cool that they're kind of growing their players and getting a lot of internal action in the Philippines, getting some people to come in and play, which is great. It's great for the international pros visiting too. It's
incredible. It's incredible how many great players are getting over there to play.
And they're being compensated, I'm sure, to get over there, and then they might win whatever they want to win playing in the match as well. So that's awesome. That's really great. That's I think more people should probably do that. Maybe we should have a Sharks in Europe and a Sharks in the US, and bring some of these guys over and diplomacy.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know. Spanish Open's going to come up. It's going to be interesting to see. It's good to see another big. This one, what's the payout for the Spanish Open as far as prize fund? Is this one of the $200,000 added ones? Yep, $200,000 prize fund.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Like, that's awesome. Another great event in Europe.
First place 30,000, runner up 15, 9.5 for the semifinalists, and 6,000 for the quarterfinalists.
Where do you see that?
On Matchroom.com.
Can you show it real quick?
Yeah.
It'd be cool if we can get like 5 of these events in the US every year. So I think the US Open does that, right? Gets to that threshold.
Yeah, the US Open, I believe, is actually a little bit more. Isn't that 60,000 first place?
Yeah, I think so. Last year was, I think.
Yeah.
60,000.
Yeah. So, but that also has a $750 entry fee too. So,
yeah,
I'm sure this entry fee isn't that much. So here's the money for it.
It was closer to like 300.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 30,000 for the winner, 15 runner up. Semifinal last night. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
So like, this is where, if you're an American traveling, you got to make the last 16 to make it really count for you, you know. And that's what I think Shane did at the UK Open. He got $4,000. So a similar pay structure there. So yeah, cool.
Basically covers your trip.
Exactly, but
maybe you make $500.
Yeah, but you're worried less about that. You're worried about the Mosconi ranking points. That's what everybody wants.
Well, Shane isn't.
Well, no, Shane and Skyler are not. Somebody came up with an interesting comment. They were like, you know, they should just have Shane and Sky be automatic picks. And instead of the Americans fighting for one place, they should fight for 3 on rankings. But I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. It's an interesting concept, like, because they're such a given, right? But
you're basically saying that they're wild cards.
They would be your auto-selected wild card. Yeah. And then you have 3 guys fighting for ranking points.
Who do you think is more guaranteed to make the Mosconi Cup every year? Do you think it's Shane and Sky, or do you think it's Josh and Jason? Could you imagine any situation?
It's definitely Shane and Sky.
Could you imagine any situation where Jason and Filler aren't on the team?
I mean, Jason normally gets picked as a wild card, but yes, I can imagine like 6-7 different scenarios where either of those 2 guys, maybe not both of them, but either one of those 2 guys is not on the team. They make themselves relevant because they're going to all the events, and so they kind of protect their placement that way. But Europe has so many champions, you know, like, well, there's so many champions that you could just, you know, have 4 or 5 teams that don't include those guys.
You can't. I guess my argument would be you can't not pick Josh because of how talented he is, right? I mean, especially under those lights, you know that he's going to be there, and you know he's going to play his best game.
He's not on the team in spots, and Europe performed just fine. So
it's been a while.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, you know, like you have guys like Federer, you have FSR, you have Kachi, Albin. You know, you have like 10 guys.
It's going to be very interesting to see with the team with Kachi. I don't want to say that Kachi's guaranteed himself in, but he
hasn't played his best in the Mosconi.
With his and he's not liked as far as like a normal teammate. He doesn't fit in with the crowd, right? He's not, and he doesn't try to, right?
Right. He's his own personality, so there is that, you know.
Yeah.
There's.
I mean, it's not like it's not like a big secret that the players, generally speaking, do not find him as a good teammate.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be mad if he was my teammate. And if there's any like social discourse that needs to be ironed out, that's on the teammates.
That's the captains, right?
That's on the captains. Probably on the captain, right? That's on the other players to get that stuff ironed out. You know. Well,
and that's and with that being said,
I mean,
that's where Jason comes in, right? Because that's Jason's role in the team.
Guy. Yeah, he's a big gel guy, and he's also big time when it comes to Mosconi stuff. Yep. You know? But like, you know, any kind of stuff like that's on the team to get squashed, you know, and get touched up and ready for game time, you know. And if you can't do that, then you shouldn't be on that team. You know what I mean? It's not like there's been American players in the past who have just been for sure toxic. Like, you know, we do not hardcore don't want you on the team. Like, I don't think anything like that resembles with any of the top European players, and definitely not Keqing. I'm sure if they see Kachi's on the list because he's crushed it this year, they're like, cool, we've got a juggernaut. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So put him in single spots as much as you can, right? Because that's where he's comfortable. Maybe find one guy that he's super gels with, and that's your
Probably
double,
Jason.
you know? Yeah,
Jason, right?
And then you have a guy like Jason who's super malleable, is flexible, can gel with everybody and kind of work it out, and you know, they're good to go. But again, the Mosconi Cup is there's so much in the vacuum. You know what I mean? There's so many factors that go into just performing well in a race to 5 alternate break. You know, it's rough, man. I went for the first time last year just to be in the room, just to see, because I always watch online. You know what I mean? And it was intense. It's
different, right?
It's
different.
Yeah, and that was the biggest it ever been in the U.S. too. So it was kind of like wild. You know, it's definitely wild. So it's cool to see how some people handle it, you know what I mean, and all that kind of stuff. And then I kind of draw parallels to other sports like basketball and different champions, how they handle themselves and different things. Is kind of cool. So yeah, it's just, you know, it's a good time.
Well, to answer Joe Bull's question, what if Conrad, Eklund, and FSR are automatic? I still think that the two pick, for me personally, 2 picks are automatic. I mean, even if Josh and Jason don't qualify, they're just as automatic as the other 3 players in that case. I think you can't make a team without Josh's talent, and you can't make a team without Jason's leadership.
Yeah, there's something to be said about having a veteran there, you know what I mean, who can really kind of like even Jason last year, he didn't play his best Mosconi Cup. He kind of had spots where he looked like, you know, unsettled a bit, but he, you know, when it mattered, you know, late in the event, he really kind of came with it, and he never lost his composure and showed up big for his team. That's what you want, you know, that's what you want, and somebody who's going to keep shooting, you know, especially if they have big firepower like he does.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think that Sky and Shane are literally the defaults, and then you add 3 players from there. But I think that Josh and Jason are becoming that very quickly with Europe. I agree with you that Shane, you can't. I mean, Shane might lose a leg, and I think they still might pick him.
Well, with Europe, you have the luxury of choice, right? If for whatever reason Josh was sick or couldn't play or whatever, like, next man up, you know, you have another guy back there. With America, you don't have as much of that luxury, but there's a lot of guys that are coming up now that are getting the seasoning needed to be in that conversation. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think it's just going to make it
pretty quickly too.
Yeah, it's gonna uptick fast in the next couple of years. You know what I mean?
I think I would say I think we're 2 years away from not being where Europe is right now, where you could literally choose probably 20, you know, probably maybe not 20 teams, but you could easily choose 10 teams that would compete with the U.S. You might be able to pick 5 just from Poland, but yeah, I think that we're probably 2 years away in the U.S. from being able to field a really, really good team and probably 3 or 4 pretty good teams. And there's a lot of really young players that are coming up that are improving quickly.
I think we have a winning team available to us now. I think there's less of an opportunity for politics to get involved and for certain picks to kind of be, we don't have the luxury of throwaway picks. Europe has the luxury for throwaway picks. So we have to pick like the right team to go and get the
Who is the right team for you?
It just depends. It depends on, there's still a whole like second half of the year.
You're our captain right now. I just designated you captain. Pick your 5.
If I had to pick today, if I had to pick a team today, I would probably pick Shane, Skyler, and Shane as your top 3. And then I would pick 2 guys after that. I'd probably pick somebody like a Tyler. Tyler would probably be the pick for my number 4 because he has a lot of experience there and he showed up strong last year. And right now my number 5 is BJ Ussery today.
BJ Ussery.
Yeah, definitely today. He's like the toughest mentally and the most disciplined when it comes to like when he goes to lock in on something, and he's the least probably afraid of anyone.
So does it bother you at all that he plays a probably 60 to 70% of his events on bar tables?
I mean, I've seen him play and beat world-class players from behind on bar tables and on 9-footers. What I care for is the mentality that you have, whether you're winning or losing, and how you close matches. And I saw him beat Federer in person. Not a lot of Americans can say that, the last couple of years. I've seen him drill a lot of the top European guys and make a super deep run here in Orlando at Racks and go deep in a big table 10 ball and a bar table 9 ball event same weekend. And, like in that tournament in Virginia, he was down 7-1 like 3 times in a row and came back and won against talented people that were shooting at him. So, I like toughness. I like somebody who knows his own game and is secure in his game and is not going to try and appease anybody, really. He's just out there to kind of do the job. And he's a veteran. He's been here, 2 or 3 decades winning big regional events. Not a lot of the other Americans have won regional events like that against the kind of players that he has won against. So those are my guys. Shane Wolford is playing super great. Shane had him stuck in Virginia, and BJ came back and beat him, in a longer race to 11. Not a lot of people have done that to Shane this year, so he's playing really great. So that would be my pick today, if I were to pick today. Yeah.
All right. And Chris kind of alluded to it. I'm going to name, so I want yes or no questions I want yes or no answers out of you for everything. I'm going to name a bunch of American players who are on the verge or, ish kind of close to potentially making the Mosconi Cup. And I want you to answer yes or no on whether they will ever make a Mosconi Cup team, either forward or again. You ready?
I hate this discussion because I'm not really like somebody to limit somebody, because I'm a person
Just speculation
that people limit. Well, people speculate all the time, and it's interesting, but like nobody knows the work people are putting in behind the scenes to improve and get ready for an opportunity. So it's kind of like I'll just based on potential, I think there's a lot of opportunity for the American guys to grow and win. There's a lot of guys people don't even talk about now that if they got their cues together and got ready, they're totally viable options. It's just a matter of whether they want it or not,
Yeah. Well, there are several players, especially in the New York range or area, that have a ton of potential that just never stick with it long enough to
yeah,
get there.
You have to be able to fade. The thing that people don't understand, it's like you can have the talent, you can have the ability, and you just need to have the right timing line up personally. You got to clean up your personal life, whatever challenges you may be going through that distract you or that take you away from your time at the table. You got to have those things align, and then your intention has to align, and you got to go and get it. You know what I mean? And there's guys that are doing that for themselves, and they're putting themselves in contention, like a Lucas, like BJ.
I could see Lucas being there in about 2 years.
Chris Reinhold was outside of the picture. Nobody would have ever picked him before he got picked, and then he got picked. And I would probably say that his selection was significant for a lot of these other guys because it showed that there's an avenue there for people to play above, punch above their.
Well, that started with Tyler for Chris, right? I mean, Tyler was like the first one where you kind of were taken back, like what?
Yeah, Tyler and Chris, those two guys, kind of open things up a little bit, so you got to give them credit for dealing with all that kind of like people can just disregarding them altogether, and they just kind of went about their business and then got a shot. The captain at the time looked in and was like, oh, I want to give this kid a shot, and he gave him an opportunity, and he did his thing. He had that great big win against Niels, first day down 0-2, huge for a rookie to go up there and play against one of the most decorated Mosconi Cup guys ever in Europe's history and go snatch a race to 5 from that. Like, that takes a lot of balls, and
I think it's the most decorated. I don't think that I don't think
maybe
so. You can
maybe Ralph, but I don't think
no,
Ralph as many as
Niels has 4 individual. Niels has 4 MVPs. There's nobody else that has over 2 now.
Yeah, Darren had at least 2. I thought Niels had like 6 MVPs, something stupid. It's like
he may have. I think it was 4, and then Sky. Nobody had multiple before Sky did it in back-to-back years, and now Jason has multiple. But
yeah,
I think Niels is the only one that had multiple, and it wasn't something that they've done the entire time from the beginning. But
yeah.
Yeah.
No, but there's a lot of guys that are working in that, people disregard all the time. And I wouldn't be surprised if they just got up and earned a spot, eventually, somehow. The opportunities, those things, those X factor variables line up at the right time. Like Jeremy Sosi, somebody we talked about forever, super solid competitor, like technique wise, has huge wins, has won a Turning Stone.
He was sticking.
Jason,
Well, Jeremy Sosi was literally sticking to the calendar away from making the team 2 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a big thing, right? Like
he didn't go to events at the end of the year.
Poor Mario He, like qualifies for the team and then has like that stupid medication situation happen, and then now is he going to make a team?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could go the same way. I could go the same way on the European side and start naming off names, but on the American side, I mean, you're lucky because you're lucky in a sense because nearly every single year you're going to have a rookie because, I mean, who else? I mean, the names that have been there for years and years and years and years that have really dominated the team over the last 15 years, like Shane and Sky, they're obviously still there. But players like Justin Bergman, Billy Thorpe, Corey Deuel, Rodney Morris, Earl Strickland. I mean, all these players that have been on every single team nearly every single year.
Yeah.
Or, a rotation of like 6 or 7 people. I don't think Earl's ever going to make the team again. I don't think he deserves to make the team. I didn't think he deserved to make the team last year, but I don't think that he'll ever make the team again. Obviously, Johnny's not going to. Rodney, I mean, he's kind of given a hit back to playing again, but I don't think that he makes the team again. I don't think Corey Deuel makes the team again. And at the end of the day, I think you're down to there's 20 players right now that can make the team realistically in the US, I would say. And about 16 of them. No, that's not true. Maybe 12 of them have never been on the team before.
Yeah, I'd say probably somebody like, I don't know. You can look at somebody like BJ, like Lucas. Like I don't. People get annoyed with
Jeremy.
Yes, Sosi's there. Hennessy's another guy who just plays all around tremendous pool. Like you can't discount him because he plays so good. Guys, like Josh Roberts is on the outside, and
Danny Smith.
Yeah, Danny's on the outside for sure.
Danny Olson, if he's playing.
Danny Smith. Oh no, yeah. Danny Olson was who I was thinking about.
Danny Olson and Danny Smith. I think that Danny Smith is,
the shredder.
He's pretty good.
Donnie, I think, is somebody who's a lot closer to making the team than they are.
Donnie, yeah.
And he's been going to events, and he's in that like him and I both are in this like 10th through 18th rank, where it's like if you win a big event, because Donnie keeps cashing pretty steadily in this like 6th through 8th kind of like range.
Same with Jesse Engel. Jesse Engel's been getting
Jesse's back playing again. He's another guy that if he just keeps going, you're going to get more opportunities to see him go deep in an event, and he will eventually. So
Shane Wolford, obviously he's never made this team. I mean, we're talking about him in a different light now, but
yeah, he's number 3 on points now, isn't he? 3 behind,
I believe,
3 or 2. So. Yeah, like he's there. You know what I mean? He's, I think, kind of like secured his contention, and I think he's going to keep treating it like he's not on the team until he makes a team. Smart, just kind of keep attacking and going to all the events he can go to. Did he go to Spain or no?
That I don't know. Yeah, he's number 3 on the list behind, but this is the world ranking. This is the world ranking.
You can just look at those top 3 Americans and see whoever they are in order. I'm sure
it's Shane, Sky, and Shane.
But for the year 1 this year, it's Skyler number 1 in points. Shane's are still that year. That's a 2-year rolling list. So Shane still has points from last year from the big events, but for this year,
not that many.
Right.
Because he didn't qualify last year.
Say again.
Obviously. He didn't qualify. I think 3rd place last year was like only like maybe $7,000 that qualified, and he's sitting at 23,000 right now. So he definitely had less than 7,000 to start out. So he's got minimum of 16,000 on 16 and a half grand on the list from this year.
Yeah. So anyhow, there's a lot of guys that are on the outside. And there's other guys too that are great. Like Alex Olinger is a great player. Doesn't ever go play the Matchroom ranking events.
Not much.
Tremendous player. Anthony McLino, another guy in Florida who doesn't go. I don't know.
Evan Lunda just won the Buffalo's one pocket. He's a great player.
Evan is a good player. I think he's one of those guys that would probably do well if he spent more time approaching the 9-ball stuff. But he's so in the one pocket world, financially, like he makes money doing it. You know what I mean? So he's interested in like that's the priority for him. So he's not going to waste his time.
I would like to see somebody like TJ Steinhaus or
and then we have a whole slew of juniors coming up that are working hard. You know what I mean? Tommy Haas.
Landon Shuffett. That's it. I'd like to see Landon Shuffett.
Well, Landon,
but he doesn't play hardly at all anymore. But he was, oh my goodness! You want to talk about talents? He was.
To your point, Landon's one of those guys that has professional caliber technique and has played and won against champions. Like he's been brought up in pool. His life is kind of focused on his ministry and on his business and doing that kind of stuff. And that's amazing. Like he knows where his gifting and his calling is. If he ever wanted to pick up his cue and compete, like he could, it wouldn't take him long to be as good as any of the Americans playing right now. And he's an incredibly sweet kid as well. And he's one of those guys that, I talked to Mark in the past, Wilson, when he was captaining the team. And he would talk about like, sometimes you have talented players who are entitled. And sometimes you have disciplined players who just get to work, and it's almost like you'd rather have for an event like a Mosconi or a team, anything. I personally want the guys that are willing to do the work and work for each other than the guys that think that they are supposed to be there because they're so talented. Yep. Can't win with 5 individuals. You really have to have a team, and team sports is really important, and that chemistry is really important. So having guys that are willing to buy in and do the work and train and be a unit together, like Mark used to have these little events happen in like St. Louis, right? These little baseball arena things, these kind of like show presentations where they'd have teams play against each other. You have really talented, like top name guys play against some of the Lindenwood kids that are used to working together and training together and all this other stuff. And Lindenwood kids would win, you're talking about against like regional pros, in the same format, Mosconi Cup style stuff. And it's like, they don't care. Like
they could play. Are
you going to outlag us? You're not going to outlag us for sure. So we're going to win the lag every time. And we're going to have the first break in a race to 5, a lot of pros will poo-poo the lag. These kids train it and they have a system. They work on it. You know what I mean? I remember I went to Lindenwood to train with Mark for 4 or 5 days once, and I put it off forever, and it ended up going, and it was a great kind of few days. And Chris was there practicing for a big event, and we did all these skills kind of tests against one another, like max spin and strokes velocity and slow speed and all this kind of stuff, like 1-to-1 testing against one another. And the only thing he beat me on was the lag, because I never practiced the lag, and he got me on the lag, and I was like, motherfucker, it was a 3-2 lag situation. I thought I had him, and I went up 2-1, and then he came back and beat me a lag. I'm like, man, it's so big, because in these races to 5, like, man, if you don't pin the ball, you're giving the other guy an opportunity to, and then you hear the crowd, and all this other stuff. Now, now you're behind behind it. You're reacting, you're hoping they break and scratch or something, So it's like they really kind of create an environment. And I will say one of the most edifying environments pool wise to be around was at Lindenwood when I went for those few days, because everybody there was non-judgmental. They were, regardless of skill level, they were 100% bought in on improving, and they were 100% supportive of everybody around them. And that, when you get around healthy people whose mindset is geared towards, I'm in this stage of my journey, and you could be a 700 Fargo, 750 Fargo, a 580 Fargo, whatever. this is where I'm at in my journey. We're all walking forward. I'll help you. You help me. Like how do we get to that place, you know? And then I think if we had more of that culturally around the country, you would see a lot more guys like a Tommy Haas or like a lot more of these outlier wins. Like one of the Lindenwood kids played a tremendous set at Derby and beat Billy Thorpe in the 9-ball, like round 5 or 6. He was playing the match over from me, and I watched him play a stout match. Played just super, super good and beat Billy. Billy was like, man, you play great. Shook his hand. Like, that's the best I've ever seen you play. You're really improving, and like very humble. You know what I mean? And just the kid was like, thank you very much. And I was like, I sent Mark a message like, man, this kid really showed up and is doing great, you know? So there's a lot of kids that are out there that people don't, give credit because they don't really know them, but they're working. So I think it's more about that. It's especially in the team environment, you need to have people that are committed to improvement and they're super positive. I think, the negatives I've seen about some of the guys like that are on the team, that whenever I see negative body language, to me, that's just unexcusable for me and a team environment. And you got to address that like beforehand. You can't have negativity when it comes to something where it's like the pressure is so big and it's so important. Like, you got to be like, even if you play bad, like even if you lose a close match, you got to be committed. You got to be there for your guys and ready to kind of like support them through the next round, because that's what that energy builds, and it can spread. And if you spread negativity and you start pointing fingers and all of a sudden like somebody goes away somewhere else, like the team falls apart. You don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. So I think Jason's, to your point, is a great team guy. He's like a big gel guy, brings everybody together and holds everybody accountable, probably, keeps everybody fired up. So
yeah. What does added mean in prize money? Basically, that's just so if there's entry fees that are added up. So if there's 100 players in the tournament and each one pays $1 to get in, there's $100 in prize money. Added money is money that the organizers add to the event that goes into the prize fund right out the door, right? Before a ball is hit. So a lot of the events now are 10,000 added or even more. So then there would be 10,000 and $100 in the prize funds. So that's what added money is.
And sometimes you'll see nomenclature. People will read a poster, oh, it's $100,000 guaranteed. So that means that fund is guaranteed. Usually that's based on a full field. If they don't have a full field, then the promoter comes out of pocket for the difference to make up that money, to make sure that the guaranteed prize fund is secured and available for the players. Yep. So those are the two ways to kind of look at it.
Yep. Or they'll, hopefully they'll prorate it. We have a couple promoters.
No prorating. Prorating is bullshit. Sorry.
Well, I'm not against that, but
no, it's trash. Don't do that. If you're having a pro event, you don't prorate. You pay out what you say you're going to pay out, because people travel there on that money. Last year, it cost Greg Hogue a spot on the Mosconi Cup.
It's true. That is true. So we have a promoter in Wisconsin that runs events, and he'll have like $1,000 added for 64 players. And then he'll have like 500 added for 32 players. And if we end up with 63 players, he adds 500.
Yeah, that's totally whatever. Like, if you're having a
but
pro,
that's
I'm going to say
that stuff drives me nuts.
Yeah, it's like, just add the money, be done with it.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I think we should probably wrap it up. This has been a pretty long podcast, but it's been a fun conversation. I appreciate you jumping in, Ray.
Thanks for having me on and then off and then on again.
Yeah, of course, always. And thank you to Chris as well for joining in earlier. I got to give a shout out to our sponsors, Jacoby Custom Cues, which I will do this now. Everybody check out their sweet work that they do. Here is a Jacoby Custom Cues ad. Jacoby Custom Cues, best in the business. Love their support for the industry. And then I want to give a shout out quick to all of the patrons that help us keep this podcast going. So thank you to Double Dave Cues, Dave Wiersma, Mo Bashir, Cody Wettig, Ed Ladawi, owner of Sandcastle Billiards, Matt Poland, and Morgan Lupton. We appreciate you guys for all that you do to help us keep going with this podcast. And with that, we will tune out for this week. So thank you, everybody, for tuning